There are about 450 or so species of reef fish in Hawaii, but we're going to just look at some of the families so you can recognize the families. So first off, we'll start out with moray eels. They're pretty easy to recognize. They're long and skinny, and they kind of look like a snake. Many of them have very sharp teeth, and so you want to remember when you're snorkeling, never put your hand down into a hole where you can't see what's in there, because you never know, there could be an eel. Lizard fish are sit and wait predators, so they sit on the sand. Sometimes they wiggle down under the sand, and only their eyes are sticking out, and they're kind of hiding under there and waiting for a fish to swim by. So they have their eyes on top of their head. Soldier fish are usually red or pinkish, and they are nighttime fish, and usually you don't see them too much in the daytime unless you look inside caves or holes. They'll be hiding in there, and they come out at night to feed. And you can tell the nighttime fish because they have very large eyes so they can see better at night, and many of them are colored red because you can't see that at night. And this is another nighttime fish called a squirrel fish. And the squirrel fish also have large eyes, and most of them have stripes. So the one on the left is the Hawaiian squirrel fish, and the one on the right is called a spot fin squirrel fish because of this spot on its fin. So notice the difference between these and the soldier fish. The soldier fish normally have this bar behind their eye. Trumpet fish are long, skinny fish, and they have a paddle-shaped tail and fins way in the back. They have a very long mouth that's like a eyedropper or a turkey baster, which they use to suck in food. And trumpet fish are kind of sneaky. They can change color to blend in with the other fish that they're around. So here you can see one's yellow. It was probably around a lot of yellow fish, and the other one's brown. So they will blend in with their surroundings. This is a coronet fish. It looks very similar to the trumpet fish, except for instead of having a paddle-shaped tail, it has a long filament for a tail. You can see here. And it swims more like a snake, kind of slithering through the water, whereas the trumpet fish swims more like a stick. It stays straight. Now this is not a native Hawaiian fish, but you will see them on reefs all over. This is called a peacock grouper or a roy. And these were imported from French Polynesia in the 1950s so that we would have more fish to fish for. And now they're a common sight on most Hawaiian reefs, the peacock grouper. These are all hawkfish, and hawkfish are another sit and wait predator. They don't have a swim bladder, so they sit on the bottom, and then when they see food, when they see a small fish or something they want to eat, they just swim up and grab it and then sink back down to the bottom. So if you see a fish just sitting there, it might be a hawkfish. These are jacks, and jacks are fast swimming fish, kind of with a shape like a tuna. And we have the most common one is the bluefin trevally, this one right here, or also called the omilu, and that's the common one we see on a reef. The giant trevally or ulua is the one over here, and it is not as common to see. It is a favorite of fishermen, so that may be why. These are snappers, and you can see the shape of the snappers. They have a sloping forehead. And snappers are both of these species are also imported from French Polynesia in the 1950s, around the same time that roy were brought in. This one's called the blue striped snapper, and then the black-tailed snapper. These are goatfish, and we have several species of goatfish in Hawaii besides the ones I'm showing you here. And you can tell they're goatfish by looking for the barbels right here. See those barbels? Those are the feelers that go down from their chin. And they can use these to feel around in the sand, and they dig around in the sand and look for food. They like to eat things that live under the sand. These are butterfly fish, and there are lots of different kinds of butterfly fish here in Hawaii, and they are beautiful fish. Most of them have yellow and black and white. There are some with some different colors, but these are the main colors. And they are very round and flat like a pancake, so they can fit in to a crack and hide. These are also butterfly fish, but a little bit different shape. They have that long snout. So we have the long-nosed butterfly fish at the top and then the forceps fish that look very similar to each other, but the long nose has a longer snout than the forceps fish. And this is an angelfish, and it's really hard to see, but angelfish are distinguished by right on their operculum, on the cover to their gills, they have a spine that's right here. And it's hard to see, but this one has that. They're similar to the butterfly fish. This one's called a potter's angelfish. It's the most common one we have, and it's also endemic to Hawaii, which means it's only found here. It's a very shy fish, however, so you rarely see them unless you are swimming slowly or stay in one spot and watch and wait for them to come out of their hole. These are damselfish, and there's several different types of damselfish. There's some types that are algae and coral eaters that stay down by the bottom and eat. The one down at the bottom here, the blue-eyed damsel, that one eats coral polyps, so it just goes around and plucks little coral polyps. The other one on the bottom right is a Hawaiian gregory, and that one eats algae, and we call that one a farmer because they like to eat certain types of algae, and they will farm the types they like, even pulling out the ones they don't like. And they defend their territory very fiercely, so if you get close to one, it'll try to chase you away. So these are some of the damselfish. These are also damselfish. These are chromis damselfish, and the chromis damselfish are plankton feeders. So you'll see them up in the water. They'll be picking plankton out of the water, but if you get near them, then they'll go down and hide in the reef. These are all wrasses, and there are many, many wrasses in Hawaii, and not only are there many different species, but they all look different, whether they're a male or a female, and even the juveniles will look different than a male or a female. So one species could have 3 different looks, so that makes learning the wrasses kind of tricky. But one of the things about the wrasses is they swim with their pectoral fins, so it looks like they're flapping their wings when they swim. And they're also often quite colorful. These are parrotfish, and parrotfish are closely related to the wrasses, except for the difference here is they have a beak like a parrot, and it's actually their teeth that are fused together to form a beak. And parrotfish scrape algae off of dead coral, and when they scrape that off, they also scrape some of the coral. So you may see a parrotfish scraping the reef, scraping the algae off the dead coral, and you may also see them pooping out sand as they swim by. They are responsible for a lot of the sand on our beaches. These are all surgeonfish, and surgeonfish are called that because right by their tail they have a spine that's razor sharp like a surgeon's scalpel. So here you can see that spine. On the yellow tang you can see the spine. Sometimes it's kind of hidden, but if you look closely you can see that it's there. And on the surgeonfish they can retract their spine, so when you see them you might not see it sticking out. You'll see it kind of retracted in. But if they feel threatened, they can put the spine out and thrash around, and that's how they can get away from their predators. The unicorn fish are also a type of surgeonfish, and they have 2 spines on each side of their tail, and these are not retractable like the regular surgeonfish, so you'll always see their spines sticking out, and you'll see 2 on each side. This is the Moorish idol. You might remember this from Finding Nemo. His name was Gil, and The Moorish idol is in its family all its own. It's kind of related to the surgeonfish, but it doesn't have a surgeon, and it doesn't have a spine, and it is um, really a very unique fish in its very own family. And one of their favorite foods are sponges, so you'll often see them grazing along on the reef eating sponges. These are triggerfish, and we have several different types of triggerfish in Hawaii. The ones that swim up in the water are the ones like this black sturgeon, the one at the top. A lot of times it looks solid black in the water. This was taken with a flash so you can see the design on it. The one in the middle is our state fish, the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a, and that means the triggerfish with a snout like a pig. And if you look at its mouth, it looks a lot like a pig's nose. These are filefish, and filefish have a spine right that starts right on top of their eye, and it's folded down. You can see it on this one. You can see it folded down, but they can put that spine up, and it's the first dorsal spine is this long spine. Filefish are common on reefs. This is the barred filefish and the fantail filefish. These are boxfish. They're both the same species. The one on the top is the female and the one on the bottom is the male. And like a lot of fish or like birds, where the male and female look very different from each other. And usually the male is the more colorful one. So this is the spotted boxfish, and it's shaped square like a box. These are pufferfish, and the top one is a small pufferfish called a toby, and they're only a couple inches long, whereas the other one, this is a big pufferfish. They can get up to about a foot long. And these pufferfish can puff up, and they have toxin in them. Very common on our reefs. And these are porcupine fish, similar to the pufferfish, but they have porcupine-like spines all over them. It's very spiny. Well, that was just a quick tour of some of the fish species in Hawaii.